your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I am Richard Dugan, your host, and I thank you so much for joining us here on the program. We have a very fascinating program we're going to be talking about because, ladies and gentlemen, you hear this all the time from me when I am talking about Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're looking for giving people choices and knowledge of those choices to help make their dreams come true. And of course, I go down the preliminaries, which I'll do at the end of the program. But the one of them that I've got to mention now is how we encourage you to take the time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice. I'm talking about our intuition. Well, our special guest, Amy Robeson, is going to join us here on the program right now to talk about how important it is. Please take the time to go within to that, listen to that still small voice as we talk about a subject I mention all the time, trusting your intuition. Amy, welcome to the program. Thank you so much. And it's great to talk about this subject in depth in this program.
I love talking about intuition. We all have it. It's fun. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, I have often said that our intuition will never put us in harm's way. It may challenge us. And in my experience, it may test us. I say that because I did have an experience when I was living in Phoenix and I was bicycling everywhere. This was when I was in my mid-30s, half a lifetime away. And all of a sudden, I am being told, getting this impression, all right, at this next corner, at this next intersection, turn right. Then go up to the next intersection, turn left. The next one, turn left. The next one, turn right, which basically puts me back on the road I'm already on. So I'm having to go 3 miles out of my way. And why would I do that? So I went actually a half a mile past the first intersection, and the impression just would not go away. So what did I do? I turned around and I went back to that intersection and I went up and over and down. And it took me a little while to figure out why, because there were no other cars on the road in the morning that I was traveling and so forth. And I realized what it was my intuition, and I refer to as my friend, who was basically saying, you say you trust me. Do you really?
Mm.
And that's kind of my perspective on it. Now, I've trusted my intuition even before then, but I was doing interviews like this, believe it or not, on a Christian radio station of all places back in the 80s and early 90s. And I've always believed that we have that gut feeling and so forth. How were you? What was your first experience, conscious experience of that still small voice asking you, encouraging you, giving you those prompts and so forth?
Yeah, so my first remembrance of an intuitive experience actually started when I was one. My mom and her boyfriend at the time were in another room. I could not hear them talking, but he came in the room, and I knew at that moment in time he was saying goodbye and he was never coming back because they just broke up. And I remember saying goodbye to him. I remember standing in my crib. I remember the blanket being laid over the crib in a particular way, the colors of the blanket. And so for me, that was my first intuitive experience. And then I would know things as a kid. And then another, like, kind of a fun story similar to yours with intuition and driving is I was 19, 20 years old. I got a job. No, maybe I was, yeah, 20 years old. I got a job of working for a guy downtown East Side Milwaukee. He had a ton of properties, so I was going to be doing property management. They said, hey, we'll meet you sometime in the morning. Didn't say where, didn't say when, but like, I'm just like, I'm ready to go. Let me go, just go find them. And there wasn't a set location, nothing like that. I wasn't profoundly good at navigating downtown. I was good at navigating the south side, not the east side or downtown. But I'm just like, okay, I'm going to turn here. I'm going to turn here. I'm going to turn here. Okay, go straight, do this. And I end up where their car's at. And I get there, and one of my coworkers is like, how did you find us? I'm like, I just used my intuition. And he was just like looking at me like, what? And I was just like, oh, I just, you just check in and it will tell you where to go. And I use it all the time. And I think that sometimes people think it's cheating, but we're designed in a particular way to receive guidance. And in my darkest moments, those are when I really have to lean into intuition because your intuition is going to guide you to the light. Your intuition is going to assist you in those challenging moments. Your intuition is a part of your field in your energy signature, and we all have access to it. So utilize it so you can live your best life. Because it's not about cheating, it's about living your best life and understanding and moving through character building experiences, moments with grace and curiosity instead of victimhood.
That is the one of the biggest bugaboos for me is this whole concept of victimhood. And that's one of the things we talk about on this program a lot too. And I in my book Choices, 5 Steps for Life, I talk about that. And the fact of the matter is from a higher perspective. And again, this is mine, okay? So don't anybody thinking I'm telling anybody else to think this way. There are no victims.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a matter of perception, true. But the fact is that we've all chosen to be where we are. I was in a personal growth program where I was with my first wife. She's totally blind. So I was there as her guide. Well,
Mm-hmm.
turns out you can't be in the room and not participate. So I
Right.
managed to allow myself to be a part of that. And the facilitator stands up and he says, I hear a lot of grumbling in the room. This was Wednesday night, the first night. I hear a lot of grumbling in the room, and a lot of you people don't want to be here, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I hate to burst your bubble. However, um, if you didn't want to be here, you wouldn't be. By virtue of the fact that you are here, you want to be here. So if you don't want to be here, there's the door, and nobody left. So we've made all of these choices, even prior to coming to this life. But that doesn't mean that any contract you may have put together prior to coming into this world is in concrete. And that's one of the things that I have learned through the years. And have you found yourself, maybe not using these exact words, but have you found yourself thinking that you've always been in the right place at the right time? It's just like an inner knowing. It's because that's kind of been my life, even through the challenge, even through my divorce and my bankruptcies and all of those things.
Yeah.
I still felt like, okay, we're still on track. We're still on path.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we're always in the right place at the right time, even in horrific situations, because we were meant to be there. And if there you weren't meant to be there, there will be a divine intervention to prevent something that wasn't supposed to happen. And I'm a big believer in if there is something that happens to you, why is this happening? Like, what am I learning from this? And like I just recently had an experience where I was dealing with a very challenging person and they were taking advantage of my generosity. So now I have to sit with how do I handle that differently? How do I have better boundaries? What could I have done differently to hold a boundary in a different way? And the funny part was, I was telling my grandma about this the other day. She goes, I warned you because she called me up urgent like a few months ago saying, there's someone you need to be careful about
Hmm.
someone you're working with. And at the time, my intuition went to, and it wasn't my intuition, it was a default mode of, oh, it's someone I one of my someone that's paying me for
Hmm.
something, not necessarily someone I might be doing a project with or something like that. And so I didn't actually check in with what she was saying. And she kindly reminded me about what she was getting. My grandma's extremely intuitive. And I'm like, you were right. And you're right about the whole situation. And she warned me about it, but it was my lesson to learn. It was
Hmm.
my experience to learn. And there's many things that I took away from it in terms of um, there's things that I'm projects that I'm wanting to do, and there's going to be things that I'm not in charge of, and there's going to be things that I'm going to have to learn to work in different environments with different people. Because when you have your own business, you can do anything you want.
Hmm.
And if you're working with someone you don't necessarily care for, you don't have to work with them, right? But when you're not in charge of the project, you have to play nice in certain ways. And so what does that look like? And what are those dynamics? And how can you use your intuition in order to work with it? And so I find the whole thing fascinating because we all have character building moments, character building days, and this is how our soul evolves. And instead of getting mad and instead of playing the victim, I always just go, what am I learning here? What can I get curious about? Especially if you're upset about it. Like, what am I learning? And how can I utilize this in my future so I can have a better experience with myself or with others or in general?
Amy Robeson is my guest. TheAmyRobeson.com is the website. We're talking about trusting your intuition here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan. Amy Robeson is my guest. TheAmyRobeson.com is the website. We're going to kind of shift a little bit to these classes that you have, master classes. First of all, why is it so important? Because I hear this all the time from many of my guests who have different things they have going on, and they refer to them as master classes or master seminars or master webinars, et cetera, et cetera. And it used to be quantum. Quantum was the big word. That was the big catchphrase in front of everything. Tell us about why master classes.
For we call it a masterclass series is because we go very, 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 very deep within the topic, and it's to assist in mastery along your life. And so I think spiritual people are very sensitive to words. Instead of calling it a webinar, because it's much more than a webinar, we call it a masterclass series. And it's a class because you're going to learn something and it's really fun. And for us, we're just playing. We want to play. And so it's a series of things that we do, from Akashic record readings to group readings to healings within inside of the Akashic records and things like that. So yeah, great question.
Okay, so what master classes are you holding here as we hurtle towards the fourth quarter of 2025?
Isn't that crazy?
Ah,
So we are going to be doing, it's called the Soul Evolution Masterclass Series Extravaganza. And because we call it an extravaganza, and it really is an extravaganza when I say this. I've been hosting this event for quite some time now, and it's an absolutely free event. And it is a 10-day series. It's Monday through Fridays. If you can't join the lives, you can catch the replays. And what we're doing is we're exploring intuition. We're exploring your soul's evolution with using the Akashic records. And the Akashic records is an amazing tool to assist in building your intuition, trusting your intuition, but most importantly, having a self-discovery and evolving. And the series, I give away prizes, I give away gift cards, we do free healings, we do clearings, we do activation. So it's a lot of fun. It's starts September 22nd. It goes Monday through Friday for 2 weeks, and then you can catch the replay. So you got a little bit of time if you're listening to this. If it already started, you can catch the replays and still join us.
hmm. And I'm sure that as we head towards October, November, December, you have other classes as well that'll be going on, and people can go to your website, which is theamyrobeson.com. That's Robeson. That's how the last name is spelled. Amy, Amy. Theamyrobeson.com will be linked to that website as well. So back to talking about our intuition. In many of the ancient traditions and teachings, the ancient wisdom teachings, I like to refer to them as, it's discussed many times over and over again, re-emphasized and re-emphasized. And I just find it really fascinating that so many people on the planet today, and I'm not going to say a minority or a majority per se, but just people that they're on autopilot. And this has nothing to do with their intuition. They're just, if it's, let's say here in the States in particular, it's 9 to 5, get up, go to work, go home, have dinner, go to sleep, get back up again and do it over and over again 5 days a week. And then on the weekends, you party hardy, and then it's a repeat the next 5 days,
Hmm.
Monday through Friday. And then there are those of us who are on a different kind of autopilot. I live currently on the mountain above, or the hill, I like to call it the hill, above Santa Barbara, California. And it's about a 7 or 8 minute drive downhill, about the same coming up, depending upon traffic. And there are no turnoffs per se until you get to the bottom, until you get into the city. But once I get into the city, I have several options as to how to get to the radio station or wherever I'm going. And there are times when I actually will mentally put out the question, okay, which way? Which is to my still small voice. Okay, which way? And most of the times, up to you. In other words, it's not going to guide me towards or away from anything in particular.
Hmm.
But then it's the same situation when I'm dealing with individuals in terms of how to approach the conversation. All right. Just stay calm, stay cool, just relax. Or, okay, you need to put on your professional hat and let them know that you know what you're doing and so forth. Then there's the, opening myself up to listening to what they have to say and then responding to it, in that way. Or maybe there's the, like with I'm dealing with my wife. It's like we even when we're listening to our intuition, we're still putting on these different masks, right? I mean, in a manner of speaking, we're not hiding. It's just the way that we're being guided in those situations.
Yeah, I think that, with intuition, it- it's up to us to utilize it. And I wouldn't necessarily say we're putting on mask. putting our feelers out. We're
Mm-hmm.
putting our antennas out, going,
Right.
what serves my highest good?
Mm.
And it doesn't have to be label or language like that, but for me, like, how often have you ever misread a text message or an email?
Yeah.
And like an email or text, written form of language can be really misunderstood because we're reading it quickly, we naturally fill in words or gaps or tone or attitude. And so one of my favorite ways to use intuition is this is what I'm about to say important for me to say? Or should I say this? Should I text this? Should I reply? Should I not reply? And I'll get a yes or a no, and if I get a no, I trust it because oftentimes I did not read the message the proper way. And if I go back and read it when I'm in the state to be able to receive it, I can reply in a completely different way than what I was originally going to reply. And it's not about being right or wrong, it's
Mm-hmm.
about the timing of and what you're going to say in response to what the other person said. Because we live in such a fast world. And so we want to just be mindful of what we're saying. And does it make sense? And is it in alignment? Is it going to hurt us? Is it not going to hurt us? And our intuition can really guide us to just live a better life,
Yeah.
especially with the communication.
Oh, absolutely. Um, I have found a couple of situations in my own life in the last few years in particular, where there was a dissolving of a relationship, but it was not my choice. It was the other person's choice. And in spite of the fact that there was a financial element to it, that wasn't what hurt me the most, or what I chose to be wounded by, if you will. It was the
Hmm.
disillusion of the relationship. It wasn't a marriage, it was just a good friend. And we'd worked
Yep.
together for 8 years. And we'd had so much fun together in terms of producing these programs of his. And then all of a sudden, one day, I don't know what happened. And I don't need to know what happened. All I know is that I miss that relationship. Not necessarily as much as I miss the relationship I had with my father, who passed away a few years back, or my elder sister, also who had passed away, or my best friend of 53 years, who passed away in 2023 on May 1st, which was rather interesting because I invited him to both of my weddings, and he wasn't able to make either one. So I'm glad I didn't make him my best man. I would have loved to have. Anyway, because he passed away on May 1st. And the reason I bring that up is because my first marriage ended in divorce, and I was served divorce papers at my place of employment on May 1st.
Oh,
And what was funny on that day was that I was actually able to make the joke saying, well, this gives a whole new meaning to the phrase Mayday. Just
gotta find humor.
trying to, hey, if we don't laugh, we cry, right?
Yep.
So now my present wife and I, we are in the process of buying a house, and it is
Congratulations.
taking longer than we had hoped. Plus the fact that we had a deadline with our landlord of where we're living now, which we've gone past, and I know they're not happy. But at the same time, we've been here almost 20 years. And I asked the question, doesn't that count for something? But the one thing that actually goes through my mind in terms of intuition is seeking sort of confirmation from outside myself.
Hmm.
Okay, I've got the intuitive knowing it's all going to be okay. Landlords are going to survive and go on, and they'll sell the property and do whatever it's theirs to do with what they will, and I want them to have it. And then the house and the escrow and all that stuff that's taking so long, I look at it this way, and maybe this is intuitive. When things like this take longer than they should, or longer than we think they should, or for example, you and we're here in spite of maybe the snafus on both our parts in terms of the calendar. Here
Yeah.
we are, which I interpret as When stuff like that gets bogged down, the one question my wife has asked is, okay, why? Why are we
Yes.
being delayed? That's number one. But then the other perspective is, it's taken a long time. That means it's going to be really, really good.
Yes.
Interview, buying a house, getting out of the rental property, et cetera, et cetera. It's just going to be fantastic. But what gets in the way are the emotions, right? The what is it? You used the word before, the not the programming, but it was like old habits
Yeah.
we go back into. And then the emotions kick in that sort of cloud our view or our ear, if you will, to our intuition, right?
Yes.
So, how do you teach people to break through those clouds, if you will, to stay focused on that support and encouragement, etc., from their own source, their intuition?
It's really simple, and that is you want to feel your emotions. And if you give yourself permission when you're in a negative loop or in a negative spiral, or maybe you're just worrying, you have anxiety, like we'll give the example of what you just used, like, are we ever going to get out of escrow? Is this ever going to close? And all those questions have emotions attached to them. Maybe it's one emotion or several emotions, but there are emotions attached to whatever it is that the thought is that you're having. So catch the thought, feel whatever emotion is that is attached to that thought, and then cancel it once you feel it, and then choose a different thought and
Mm.
feel that emotion that's attached to that. And it takes less than a minute.
Mm.
It takes less than a minute to get out of that spiral loop. It takes less than a minute to shift your energy from something negative or something low vibrating or something of anxiety and worry to something that assists you in feeling empowered,
Mm.
assists you in feeling at peace, assists you in feeling relaxed. You have a choice at any given moment to stop and pause and go, what am I actually feeling? Because these thoughts have these feelings attached to it. What am I actually feeling? Let me feel that and then let me cancel it and let me choose a different thought. And when you do that, you're like, whew, it shifts because you can't think of something negative and positive at the exact same time. You
Hmm.
have to pick one or
Hmm.
the other. So choose the negative, feel the feeling, cancel it, and then choose a different thought and feel the positive feeling.
Yeah, it's funny too because I'd heard this statement. You cannot have two thoughts at the same time, whether you use your example of positive and negative. You can't. And then I
Mm-hmm.
shared that on a program, and one of my guests said, "Oh no, no, you can have all kinds, multiple thoughts at the same time." And I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever done that. I've shifted from one to the other, and what helps me is taking action. In the case, for example, of what we're going through, okay, I'm getting anxious, I'm getting frustrated, I'm da 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 da. I'm going to go pack some boxes. I'm going to go work on preparing to move, i.e., making a box, and then I'm going to put my clothing in this box and so forth. And then that shifts me out of that emotional state into well, call it a practical state, if you will, of focusing there. And then I start feeling the enjoyment of the activity, whatever it is. If I
Mm-hmm.
have to trim the weeds or pack the boxes, or let's go do an interview. Let's see if we can't line somebody up and have a conversation, and so forth. Shifting. And so for me, it's taking action that then helps me to shift my mind's focus onto something that is more productive, more constructive, and so forth. And that's kind of what we're all about here. As we continue with Amy Robeson on Tell Me Your Story, we are talking about our intuition here on the program with Amy Robeson. TheAmyRobeson.com is the website. You obviously have been trusting your intuition all of your life, as you mentioned earlier about when you were a year old, and I'm amazed because I'm not remembering much of anything from those single digit years, other than maybe an instant when I threw a garbage can, one of these metal garbage cans, at my brother and
Oh
I hit him in
gosh.
the head with it, or Uh, we used to build forts in the backyard with wood that my father would bring home, or we would camp out with my mother's Indian blankets that we would use as a tent. She was not happy.
Ooh,
Those kinds of things, wonderful
yeah.
memories. But in terms of being consciously aware of some of these things, although I will tell you, I had one instance when I was in church. We were going to the Catholic church there, and I was sitting there. I was trying to blink as fast as I could twice to have two identical blinks. And I thought I was going to drive myself, I was 7, drive myself crazy. And then it dawned on me it's impossible for you to have two identical blinks. And the reason is because everything is in motion. So from one instant to the next, it's not going to happen. And I let that go finally, but I thought I was going to drive myself crazy at the age of 7 trying to accomplish something like that. We try to do that though in our lives. We had an experience and it was great. Okay. I want to duplicate it. I want to make that same thing happen. But it's never going to be the same a
No,
second
right,
time.
right.
Talk to us a little bit about understand our having a better understanding of the changing universe, but at the same time there are those who are actually chasing something they can't duplicate from their past. They want to make it happen in the present moment. Where is the disconnect in that concept? Is it that we're living in the past, where we're not wanting to live in the present moment in the now? There's a fear of the now, so we go back to better times as we perceive
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I think that there's a natural default for people. It's you either default to the past or default to the future, where someone's like very, very always chasing whatever's going to come into the future, thinking about the future all day long. Maybe the past comes up, but they are very future based, so they're racing towards the future. And then you have people that are still wanting to capture their glory days, maybe people that were like popular in high school and
Mm.
they were the prom king and queen and whatever, and they're stuck still there. They're wanting that to relive that experience. And I find that the most challenging thing is to be present.
Mm-hmm.
And when we give ourselves permission to just be with the breath, even if it's just like, okay, I'm going to take a conscious breath in and a conscious breath out, that's practicing being present. And the problem sometimes I feel is there's this constant chase of pursuit of happiness.
Mm.
And so even if you're dwelling in the past or dwelling in the future, there is this pursuit of I was happy once, I want that again, or I will be happy when I get this thing. And so instead of chasing or pursuing happiness, can you be at peace?
Mm.
Can
Mm.
you find peace? Can you allow your nervous system to stabilize? Because our world is speeding up and it's speeding up at a rapid pace. I mean, look at how different our world has changed in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're predicting that they don't even know what it's going to look like 5 years from now, like, because
Yeah.
that's how fast things are speeding up. And so instead of constantly chasing in either direction, the past or the future, can you be present? And can you find peace? And if you can find peace in the moment, even in the darkest moments, if you can find peace, this allows you to evolve. And for me, I think that there's these programmings that we get that are it's a societal consciousness of when I get this reward, when I get this promotion, when I get that car, when I get that house, when I get, there is this constant drive of, okay, I got it, now what? Okay, I got it. Now what? We don't even stop to take a moment to celebrate. And celebration is actually being present with the accomplishment itself.
Mm.
And when we learn how to practice and gratitude, taking a moment to express gratitude,
Hmm.
that is also a practice of being present. Even though we're exploring what we're being grateful for, but we're taking a moment to like really feel that gratitude and being present with the vibration of gratitude and what it is that you're grateful for. And so it's just, it's an interesting we're an interesting experiment as humans.
Couldn't agree with you more. Amy Robeson's my guest. We're talking about our intuition, trusting your intuition. And we're going to talk more about that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story, which is providing you with new paradigms for a new world, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. So we hope you'll stay with us here on Tell Me Your Story. The program that we are bringing you today also, I think, Amy, has to do, Amy Robeson, with change. And certainly that is one of the main constants in the universe. There may be others, but that one's the big one. There's a wonderful little book that I was given to read. It was mandatory reading at the station I was working for, called Who Moved the Cheese? And I remember reading it. I remember going into my boss's office, placing the book back on his desk and saying, I did read it. And I just need to let you know that I do not have any problem whatsoever with people using the metaphor moving the cheese. Don't have a problem with it. My problem is not knowing where they moved it. You want to move it? Fine. Tell me where you moved it. That's all I need to know so that I can go find it and so forth. And that particular aspect, specifically in regards to the, change, um, our lives are changing constantly. REM has it right in the song, "It's the end of the world as we know it."
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, months, years, decades, it's gone. And so I want to talk a little bit, sidetrack here of sorts, or sidebar, in regards to regret.
Oh,
Seems
okay.
to me that regret is like we have it, but it's irrelevant, because what to me regret says is, if only I could go back there and change that.
Yeah,
But the problem is, it's kind of like the game of Jenga. If you remove that experience, that event from your life, and then you come back to the present, you aren't the person you were before you changed that back in the past, even if you
exactly.
could. So let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit about moving beyond that aspect in terms of, I want to say, accepting all of who we were that has made us who we are.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting that you use the word regret because I think if we unpack regret even more, what it comes down to is guilt and shame. What do you feel guilty about? What is there shame around? And can you forgive yourself?
Hmm.
Can you forgive yourself for the decisions you made or the indecisions you made? And then we also can look at, um, things happen and people make choices. And for me, I grew up with a severe alcoholic stepfather. And even though he was severe alcoholic and caused a lot of trauma, I am grateful for the structure he provided,
Hmm.
some of the safety he provided, because he also created non-safety, but the safety he did provide, um, the experiences he brought, good, bad, and indifferent, because at the end of the day, I wouldn't be where I'm at without this man in my life.
Hmm.
And I'm also okay with finding ways to slowly forgive. Because sometimes with regret, guilt, and shame, there is a lot to forgive, and it is a lot for some people to process forgiveness all at once.
Mm.
And so we can peel it back like a layer with an onion, and it's a slow process of forgiveness. And it's not about necessarily forgiving that person for what they've done. It's about giving yourself peace and to stop hurting yourself.
Mm.
And the more that we work on ourselves, the more we actually work on our ancestral lineage and our soul lineage. And it is not your job to make anybody else do their work, because I have many people in my life that they are in a trauma spiral.
Mm.
They have not dealt with their trauma, and they most likely will not deal with their trauma in this lifetime to the fullest degree that they are capable of doing because it's too scary for them. And I am okay with that because it is not my responsibility to fix them. It is not my responsibility to make them do their work. It
Mm-hmm.
is only their responsibility to do their work. It is your responsibility to do your work. And forgiveness is a necessary component for evolution. And when we find in our hearts that we can forgive, we set ourselves free from the shackles that we have been placed in knowingly or unknowingly from ourselves and from others.
It's interesting because two thoughts have come to mind. One is, of course, that's hard to do, especially if you're in a very close or intimate relationship with the other person and you
Mm-hmm.
want to help. You really want to help them to get through their stuff, but you can only go so far. You can only do so much to support them, to encourage them, but again, they have to do the work. The second thought, I went through a period of time almost 10 years ago where there was this individual who just rubbed me the wrong way. And in school, I was bullied. So this was a bully. And I said, okay. And I got drawn into what I refer to as the quagmire. And it took me about 6 months to get out of that quagmire with a four-step thing I came up with. The fourth step was actually given to me by one of my guests. The first step, which was something that my intuition said, and you have to say this out loud, verbally. Okay. You cannot just think it in your head. And it was really hard because the last thing I wanted to do is give this person this title. But thank you, teacher, for teaching me how not to be.
Yes.
Second step, I forgive you. But more importantly, to your point, I forgive myself for allowing myself to be dragged into this quagmire. Then the third one, going to your other point about the people having to do their own work, asking the question, what is it that you're so afraid of that makes you be this way? I'm not asking you to change. I'm wanting to understand so then I can move on. And then the fourth step was saying, and it has to be genuine, I love you. You have every right to be here just like me. I don't have to like what you are, who you are, and how you're being, but you have the right to be here and do whatever it is that you're doing. And I have the right to be here and do the things that I'm doing without allowing you, and I love the phrase, without allowing you to live rent free up here.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I just find it fascinating that people, and I was perplexed by this when I was working back in Phoenix for this Christian radio station. And there was this one 2 hour call in talk show from Denver. People would call in, some people praised the guy, and others just blasted the guy. They hated him and just, oh, you should be off the air, da da da. And I'm going, wait a minute, hold it, hold it. Why are you listening? Why don't you change the channel?
Good question, right?
And then even today, with the divisions, the multiplicity of divisions that we have, or polarizations, and polarization is obviously two poles, but I suppose you could have more. People, they allow themselves to be pulled into these quagmires. I'll use that term, and it's like, how is that helping you? It hurts your health physically, mentally, most emotionally, and spiritually.
Hmm.
Uh, you run into these folks all the time. I'm sure people who come to you for coaching and sometimes even with business, and they're stuck in that quagmire. How do you help them to get out of that quicksand?
Well, for me, which I love your process, it's very similar to the the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono prayer, which is um, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you.
Mhm.
And I just did a movie with Joe Vitale that's actually coming out on Apple and Prime on September 25th. It's called Zero Limits.
Mm,
And the whole movie, the premise of the movie is, do we have any limits? And we talk about the Ho'oponopono prayer in the movie. And so if you put a limit on yourself where you're like, I can't do that, I'm not going to do that, I don't want to forgive them, right there, you're stopping yourself dead in your tracks from progressing forward until you are capable and able to move past whatever it is that's preventing you from going forward. It does not mean you're not going to make progress. What it means is you're still going to stay in the reality in which that is in.
mhm,
When you give yourself permission to move past that and forgive, what you're doing is you're shifting out of that reality and into a new reality where you are allowing yourself to thrive, not survive, but thrive. And when you're thriving, new opportunities come. And the more that you give yourself permission to push past your limiting beliefs, push past the patterning, push past the programming, you are giving yourself permission to be your most authentic version of yourself. Only you can be you. Only I can be I. And it is such a beautiful world because we're all so uniquely different, yet we have similarities and we find our people and we find the people we're supposed to march with, the people we're supposed to shout with, because when we do this, we grow.
mm,
And when we get in collaboration or when we get into tiffs of sorts, we are given opportunities to grow. No
mhm,
matter what, there is an opportunity in every single thing we experience throughout the day. There is some sort of opportunity that is available for us to receive. And it's up to us to receive it. And so when people get in their feelings or get in their own way, there is resistance. The thing is can you give yourself 1% effort to get out of that resistance? Because maybe it feels really, really hard. And maybe the first step is just acknowledging I have resistance. Because then you're starting to break free
mm,
from it.
mhm,
Doesn't mean you have to go and say, let's say you're like alert, you're afraid of heights, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the 27th building and I'm going to step out onto the balcony, even though I'm afraid of heights. That could be the first step. Or the first step could be, I'm okay knowing that I'm afraid of heights, and I'm going to just go up to the first floor and look out the window.
mhm.
That could be the first step. And it doesn't have to be this grandiose thing, but it's grandiose to you, even if you're in it 1%. In yoga, they say you're in the pose 1%, you get 100% of the benefit.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
1% looks different for everybody.
yeah. I'm afraid of heights, so I'm going to go climb Mount Everest.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not
Yeah,
do that
well,
right away.
yeah. It reminds me of a clip from the movie God Almighty with Morgan Freeman and Jim Carrey.
Yes.
And Morgan and this other gal who was in another TV series that I'm flat out forgetting. Anyway, she's asking for more fries or something else at the diner. And he comes over and he looks at her. Is there something going on? I mean, what's happening? And she's saying, "Well, I'm this, that, and the other thing." And his response to her was just fabulous. I love this little piece that he does. And he basically says, "Do you think that when people pray to God for courage, that God gives them courage. And do you think that when people pray for patience, God gives them patience? And when people pray for love in their lives, do you think God just gives them love? He says no. When they pray for courage, God gives them an opportunity to be courageous.
Mm-hmm.
When they pray for patience, He gives them an opportunity to be patient. And when they ask for love, He gives them an opportunity to love and be loved. And it's funny because I know people still pray for those things, and that's why sometimes I'll ask the question because you touched on this earlier, where the founding fathers had in the preamble, or I think I wish I could remember. I think it's the preamble, the pursuit of happiness. And I said, do you think that they knew something, that there was something there that they understood about happiness that they couldn't give you? They said, and among these inalienable rights are life. Well, if you're alive, you have it. Liberty, if you're in this space that they were creating called America, you have it. But we can't give you happiness, but you can pursue it. And from what you said earlier, I'm starting to question whether they knew something or whether they were playing semantics or something, because happiness isn't it's fleeting, it's temporal, it's short-lived, because we're constantly moving forward into different experiences that evoke different emotions and so forth. And so I have to wonder. I mean, for example, the house that we're wanting to buy, I'm not looking at that as some kind of a savior, so to speak. Oh, that's going to make life so much better. There's certain aspects that, yeah, it might, but that ain't the goal. You know, the goal is to have a fresh start, to have
Yes.
new energies around us in a space we've never lived before, and so forth. Just like when we moved here, this was a sacred space. We made it so, and so forth. And we talk a little bit about this aspect of, so to speak, pursuing happiness. And if that is something that it's okay, but that we need to keep in the back of our minds that it's okay for a moment, so to speak. And we can't live there because we've got a lot of people who are in institutions. They're there 24/7, 365.
Mm-hmm.
That's just their state. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about this concept, because to me, what you were really referring to was that we're really looking for peace.
Yeah. So if if you've ever had, I'm definitely a future-based person. I'm always looking towards the future. I'm excited about the future. I'm looking for a project. I want to complete that project. That project's complete. I'm done. I'm on to the next project. And the problem with this constant chasing of happiness is you're not acknowledging that you can actually just be happy in the moment.
Mm.
And so if you find peace, which there's a famous yogi, I can't remember his name, but he said, uh, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's like, don't let anybody steal your peace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so to me, when you get into a disagreement or you get into an argument or you're chasing that goal, that carrot, what you're doing is you're removing yourself from the present. And there's nothing wrong with wanting things. But when it's stealing your peace and you're thinking that that next thing's going to solve your happiness problem, what you're doing is you're not actually living life in the moment and you're not giving yourself permission to be at peace and be happy. Because there's a question I like to sit with, and that is, can I be happy now? In
Yeah.
this moment, can I be happy now? And usually, if I'm at peace, I am happy. Like, because what I'm doing is I'm not stressing, I'm not worrying, I'm not anxious, I'm not sad or angry or mad or whatever it is that I might be feeling. But what I'm doing is I'm giving myself permission to just be. And when I'm too focused on goals and not focused on the present moment, I find that that stills my peace. And so I can be happy now. I don't have to chase that thing. And what ends up happening is it simplifies the path
Mm.
because you're not approaching it from this anxious or stifled energy. What you're approaching it from is a peaceful manner, from a place of openness to receive. And what you do is you end up folding time because you're not worrying about all the steps. What unfolds is very naturally, intuitively, and you're just following the guidance that presents itself to you, and you're being present and you're being happy and you're being at peace in the moment instead of whatever it is that you're feeling in the moment. And that's not to say don't feel anxious, because if you're anxious, feel that feeling, acknowledge it, and get curious, why are you feeling that way? Because then you
Mhm.
can solve the problem and get your peace and happiness back.
That also keeps you in touch with your intuition when you're in the
Yes.
present moment. And then you get the guidance that you need for that situation that maybe you are emoting about. Some years ago, I was dealing with a financial situation, and I was getting this impression to do this, my first thought went in my mind, no, no, that's completely opposite of my plan, my plan, and obviously it was one of those impressions wouldn't go away. Okay, I'll do it, and I will tell you that 2 or 3 days later, had I not followed those promptings, things would have been a lot worse. So I was so
Yes.
glad that I did what I did. And at the same time, I was challenged once being asked the question, Richard, how many, you need to deal with all of the mistakes that you've made in your life. Mistakes. You want to use the word sin? Fine. That's fine. And I didn't know where this answer came from at the time, but I responded by saying, I have never made a mistake in my life. Never.
Mm.
What I have had are life lessons and or learning experiences. Period. No judgment on it either way. It's like the universe. I use this analogy all the time. You're looking through a telescope and you're looking out at the macro cosmic world, right? And you go, ooh, ah. There's no judgment, there's awe. Then you look into an electron microscope and you're looking at basically the same kinds of things happening. And you're again in awe. Wow, that's wild, incredible. But when we get here, I call it the mid crow, there's judgment. Oh, that is good or bad. And then, of course, I quote the Chinese story or proverb, if you will, about the farmer and his son and the farmer's neighbor. And each day something happens, and the neighbor comes over, and the farmer elucidates on what had happened, and the neighbor will say, "Oh, that's good." To which the farmer replies, "Who's to say whether it's good or bad?" And each day there's another event, and the neighbor says, "Oh, that's too bad." Who's to say whether that's good or bad? And each day it's good or bad to the neighbor. And that's kind of where I struggled for a long time with this concept of duality. There is no duality. This is just life. It's what happens. This is where we live. And so if we can, and I'm not going to say I'm a master at it by any means, I need to take one of your master classes to master staying in the moment, because in the moment there is no good or bad. There just is.
Hmm.
There's a biblical passage about be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. Well, what is perfect? And then I went back to the Old Testament and it says, I am that I am. Okay, that means that to be perfect is just to be, just
Mm.
to be. And it simplifies things a whole lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. It takes the pressure off of it, I think. Because if you just are, it just is.
Yeah.
But we live in a society of labels
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
it's good or bad. And, that's up to you if you want to label it that way. But sometimes it does help us shift through the categories, right? Of what to do, what not to do. But it just is. At the end of the day, it just is.
Yeah. The other aspect of it too, I'd love your comments on is that the events of today, 10 days ago, 10 weeks, months, years, 10,000 years ago, in the grand scheme of things, none of it matters.
I had a whole conversation with my sister about that this morning.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. And I have to say that there's another aspect of it too. You talk about being in the present moment and you have these different things come up with individuals. And I abhor drama. I it's like I just don't want to deal with it. Whether it's the drama of Mother Earth with volcanoes and tsunamis and earthquakes and wildfires and so forth, it's like wherever you live, you deal with that kind of stuff. Wherever you
Yes.
live on the planet. Well, it's kind of the same way with people. You're going to deal with people who are volcanic and shaking the boat and so forth and overwhelming you like a tsunami. And that's just the way it is. And I want to have, as much as possible, clean relationships. And if a relationship is going to end, I want to end it cleanly. It's like with this landlord. I don't want to cause her consternation and all of this stuff and the angst over the fact that these people will not leave the property. Da, 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 da. And there are things that go on in my personality mind that go, I want to say this and I want to say that. And it's like, how does that help?
Right.
How does that help? It doesn't. Name calling. I hear this obviously in the political realms. It's like, well, they're calling names. I says, well, who's going to start? Who's going to start to stop? Because you can't expect them. So why don't you stop name calling? Stop accusing somebody else and being the victim and so forth. That to me is also real important too, isn't it? That if we see a situation like that, what is it? Was it Gandhi who said, "Be the peace you want to see"? I think it
Yeah.
was.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. And I think it's we have a chance every moment to hit the reset button. At any moment, you can hit the reset button.
Yeah.
If you're not acting or behaving in the way that you're proud of, hit the reset button. If you're approaching a situation from not a level head, hit the reset button. And you get a do-over the next day if you're blessed enough to wake up the next day.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, this moment in time is a tiny little speck in your
Mm, mm,
internal
mm.
soul. It is a blip on the radar. It is so minute yet so big.
But then we ask the question, why am I here? And we're searching for the answer. And am I correct that there is no one answer that fits all?
No,
That
there isn't.
that your answer is your answer and mine is mine.
Yeah. Well, we're each unique souls. We're each unique beings, and we all have purpose, mission, and drive. And if we wanted to give a generic answer, it is to serve ourselves and to serve humanity.
Hmm.
Because there's a reason why we want to be embodied at this moment in time. And part of it is experiencing a body, experiencing emotions, eating, smelling, tasting,
Hmm.
touching, things like that. Because that is such a privilege when you think about it. Like it is such an amazing tactile experience that we get to experience when we are in body. And so enjoy it. Enjoy the cake. Enjoy the fresh air. Enjoy the laughter. Enjoy it. And
Hmm.
there's going to be grief that is a part of being human, but enjoy it all. The
Hmm.
good, bad, and the ugly. Enjoy it because it is a part of the embodied experience that your soul chose and wanted to have because your soul comes in and says, We're going to have all these contracts. We're going to make all these agreements so that I can have this particular type of reality, life, experience, growth, evolution, challenges, all of it. All of it's encompassing. And you get to experience it. And that is such a miracle and a blessing.
And you mentioned our individuality, that we're each unique and so forth as far as souls are concerned. But talk to us about our connectivity and why that is also is equally important.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you've experienced, I'd be shocked if someone didn't experience, but you're ever like thinking about the person and then all of a sudden that person calls you, they email you, they text you, one of the things, or you run into them, right?
Hmm.
And we are so multi-dimensional. We are so connected with one another. This is where our intuition plays in. And it's such a cool experience. I had someone that I was getting an intuitive message to give them a turkey feather. And I was like, hey, my guides told me to give you this. I want to give this to you. And he looks at me and he goes, oh my gosh, Amy, I've just got this download. I don't know, maybe a couple days or the day before that day. He goes, where I was being guided to write in dragon's blood, which is some sort of herb or something, with a
Hmm.
turkey feather. And I was thinking, how in the world am I going to get a turkey feather? And here I come with this turkey
Hmm.
feather.
Hmm.
And I handed to him, and he was so grateful. But it's like those are the things that I love the most because you can't make this stuff up.
No.
You're not making it up. It's such a cool experience. And those are the things where I'm like, yes, I trust it, he trusted, and now we're trusting together and we're having this moment and it's so
Yeah.
fun and it's just really neat. And we're enmeshed in different ways where we're sending signals, and it doesn't matter if you're in a physical human body or if it's your dog or if it's your grandmother that passed away. We are constantly communicating with each other, and that could be through telepathy, words, symbols, signs, synchronicities, and it's up to us to actually tune into the magic of it.
James Redfield, in his book Celestine Prophecy, talked about messages that we have one for another. And I took it another step further by saying that when we put up our shields, like in Star Trek, they can't transport, they can't go in with the shuttle or anything, but they can fire their weapons. That's the worst part of it. But when we put up our shields, not only are we denying the other person of the messages we're being given for them, and it may not be God told me to tell you, but you're also denying them the opportunity to share their messages with you. And I just love that. I've had him on the program. It's been a while. I'd love to get him back again, but it's just we seem to forget sometimes that we have these messages. And so I haven't put this in any framework, but I have this feeling that I will be sending this landlord a final email or what have you, basically thanking the family, because this property was family owned, for allowing us to reside here and experience the mountains and so forth and so on. And we really appreciated the opportunity to be here, and not going into any of the other stuff. It's just that being grateful
Yes,
for being where we are now, and then we'll be grateful for where we will be when we get wherever it is that we will be.
absolutely.
And that to me is a big part of it as well. And thank you for sharing your perspectives on that as well. As we continue with Amy Robeson, theamyrobeson.com is the website we'll be linked to as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Amy Robeson, I want to thank you so much. This has been a wonderful hour plus conversation with you. I've always enjoyed talking with you and other folks. You are also you're a healer. You're a spiritual coach for businesses, right? I mean, as well as for individuals, I'm sure. How is it that you are able to utilize that aspect of your God given talents, if you will, to help businesses? Because I've always I keep hearing this aspect of business and capitalism that it's all about the money.
Ah, well, I think the money comes when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And for me, I built my entire business using the Akashic Records. I think the Akashic Records are one of the most amazing spiritual tools you can have in your toolbox. And I utilize the records if someone's wanting support with their business. We utilize the records and we create and develop their programs, their offers using the records. But most importantly, what we're doing is we're using the records to clear the fears, the
Mm.
anxieties, the shortcomings, the whatever else that comes up while you're wanting to build your business or while you're in business. We use the records to heal those types of things that come to the surface when they're revealed. They're wanting to be healed, and so we can heal them.
And so if the universe is constantly in motion, and when because I've been to intuitives over my lifetime, but I've never gone to them to get answers that I didn't already have. It was a confirmation of what I already knew, but I was not quite at a place where I was trusting that
Yeah.
voice
Yeah.
100%. But because everything is in motion, is it what you share with them now? It's going to be a little bit more universal rather than at that moment, because the next moment the information you gave them may not apply because the universe is in motion.
Great question. So with the Akashic records, every word, deed, thought is recorded in the Akash. We can open up your Akash to receive love and guidance and support, but it's based on that moment in time. Because when what you're asking is based on that moment in time, and sometimes that answer will be good for a month, 2 months, a year, however long. But sometimes you got to take action and you got to take action immediately on it. And I'll give you an example. Like, um, I I used to be a finance manager. I decided to get my yoga teaching certificate because I wanted to, one, get over my fear of public speaking, and two, have additional income when I started my coaching business. And so I went into the records and I said, "Hey, where can I get a teaching job at a studio?" Because I did it privately with someone else based on my hours of work, but I really wanted to work at a studio. So the Guardians were like, "Here are three studios you can go and check out. The one studio, we want you to speak to the owner, tell them that you would like to observe the kids class." And I was like, I'm kids teaching kids yoga wasn't even on my radar. And I'm like, okay, I'll go do it. So I went, did it. Within 2 weeks, he said yes, I could observe the kids class. 2 weeks later, he calls me back to ask me if I want to co-teach the kids class. If I would have waited, let's say a month or 2 months, that opportunity would have fled. And so when it comes to messages, some messages are meant to be utilized immediately. Some you can take your time and work through and work on. But when they're giving you the answer, it's always based on that moment in time, and you have free will. And so you have the option to take action or don't take action.
Hmm. Well, that's important to remember too. In my book, Choices, Five Steps for Life, the first step is make a choice. And
Hmm.
sometimes not taking action is the choice.
Yes.
That's very important to keep in mind. And I thank you so much for sharing all that you have. We're going to have you back again to continue this conversation. I'd love to talk more in regards to the healing aspects of our intuition as well. We got remarkable bodies that are not what they were. And they say every 7 years we have a new body,
Hmm.
and which is amazing to me. So we'll have you back again to talk from that perspective. And thank you so much for being a part of the work we're doing here to try to change the world for the better for everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
I do have three final questions that I'm going to ask you that I ask all of my guests. But first, I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world. We're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We're here Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry. iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. Please subscribe and click notification. We also ask that you go to Amazon and pick up my book, Choices 5 Steps for Life. It's available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. And if you could leave us a tip, our tip jar is called PayPal. Now, on the homepage of richarddugan.com, you have links to both Amazon for the book and PayPal for the tip. And we thank you, thank you, thank you for those who have helped and to those who will help. And finally, as this whole program today has been about, we ask you to take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, and spend some time going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listening to that still, small voice. With all of that being said, we move to our final 3 questions for our very special guest. The first of those 3 questions is, who is Amy Robeson?
I am just pure energy. That's what I am. I'm going to give you a simple answer today. I've answered this question a lot. I am the essence of who I am, which is love, compassion, light, and so many other things.
What gets you up in the morning?
My daughter, she's an early riser. I'm an early riser too. No, it's life. I think it's fun. I get
Mm-hmm.
to do this thing, and I have the privilege of saying that I'm absolutely doing the thing that I love, and I'm grateful for that.
And finally, what was your best day?
Oh, I have many of those. We'll go with the day my daughter was born. That was one of my favorite days. She's going to
Wonderful.
be 5 in November, so
Oh, wow. Wow. What a journey for you and for her. How fantastic.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
again, thank you so much. And again, I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life and you being in mine. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.